Okay, I'm going to first read the student's description, formal description of forms, over this blank screen to see what kind of mental image it evokes. The image being described is a photograph by Gustave LeGray, and it's called The Great Wave. Here's what the student said. My chosen image is The Great Wave by Gustave LeGray from 1857. The image depicts the rough Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Montpellier in southwest France. The sun is hidden behind scattered dark, rain-filled clouds. However, some light from the sunset still breaks through and around the clouds and gives the image some light. The size of this image is 33.7 by 41.4 centimeters and is displayed and produced as a horizontal image. The black and white image taken here was created by the formation of two negatives, a typical technique used by LeGray. The two negatives meet on the sea horizon line, which created a bright light area in the center of the image, showing the effect of greater sunlight. That probably needs a quotation to find out where you found that out, to tell us where you found that out. Okay. Roughly 90% of this image is taken up by a split of the sea and the partially cloud-filled sky. The effect of the black and white allows the audience to see the rough sea, filled with waves not only close to shore, crashing against the rocks in one corner, but also in the distance, where waves from different directions clash and create white ripples upon the turn of the waves. The only part that splits the sea and sky is the stone pier/jetty that runs halfway across the image. Again, you can see the white waves crashing against the side of the rock. The sky is potentially the most famous part of this image, created by the negative effect from LeGray. The center of the sky, okay, it probably should be area. The center area of the sky is clear, with no clouds, allowing lighter shades and color to enter the image. Towards each side/corner of the image, the sky is filled with clouds. These clouds, to somebody present at the scene at the time, are probably not as dark as portrayed in the image, but the negative effect makes them seem darker than usual. One note, that's going to have to be expanded. I'm not sure what you mean there. Okay, back to the description. The sea horizon is also one of the most famous parts, as mentioned earlier. There is a small, slight white line on the horizon, which was created by the two negatives, making the separation from sea to sky more evident to the eye. In my mind, there is a strong contrast between the sea and the sky. The sea is full of ragged, darting short lines from the waves and is perceived as being rough and harmful. On the flip side of the coin, that's a colloquialism, you shouldn't use it. The sky is more of a pleasant picture, one that looks peaceful if you were to only look at that part of the image. For the part of the sky that is not filled with clouds, the image looks even more pleasant. However, the fluffy, curvy shapes, okay, that needs some spell check. However, the fluffy, curvy shapes of the clouds floating around show the peacefulness effect of the image. All right, so based on that description, what image do you have in your head? And how close is this? One of the first things I would mention is that, or I want to reinforce, is that a formal description is just a description of the forms that make up the work of art. Now the student has made a pretty good first attempt to describe the forms that are seen. And some meaning or story slips in there. And for a strict formal description, that's not necessary. The meaning or story is later. Technical stuff shouldn't be described unless it is directly affecting what is seen. And I believe it is, with the seam of the negative at the horizon line. So that was a good thing to mention. But only describe what is actually seen. If the description is good, it should evoke a good mental picture. So this initial description is pretty good. I want to point out a few things, that not only is this Where am I? I need a pencil. There we go. It's a horizontal image and has a lot of horizontal lines. The image is broken up in horizontal sections. Right? Horizontal, horizon. Look at the geometric shape of, excuse me, of the jetty or pier. That was a good description that the student had. But what would make it better is to have a location. He said it's in the middle, but it's a little bit higher than the center, coming off of the left side of the picture, and it's a thin pier moving in towards the center from the left. Okay, and the horizon line is, it's a little more than halfway up the picture. Let's see, let's go back. The student said, quote, "The effect of the black and white allows the audience to see the rough sea filled with waves, not only close to shore, crashing against rocks in one corner, but also in the distance." Okay, so how's the black and white doing that? Okay, if this were in color, would it be different? There's some textural things the student started to allude to in the sea. Okay, there's a textural difference between what's happening up here along the rocks, what's happening just before the wave crashes, what's happening out at sea. Can you see this compression? It looks like things are going back in space to a point. Okay, textural difference between the ocean and the clouds. If you can make a distinction between the ocean and the clouds, both their shape and texture, that's going to help this description a lot. Probably my biggest critique, this is actually a pretty good student description. I think my biggest critique would be to, when revisiting this, think more and more simply. Shape. Describe a shape. Describe its size. Describe its location very specifically. Its tone. Since there's no color here, we can't really describe a color. We can describe tone, though, light and dark, and its texture. And they make contrasting descriptions of different textures or shapes. Like, how are they similar and how are they different? And if you can get that in this description that was already written, I think it'll be a great formal description. What should be left out is, let's see, quote, "The sea horizon line is also one of the most famous parts as mentioned earlier," end quote. That sentence does not need to exist in the description. That can be in the biography, that can be in an analysis that comes later on, but things like that have nothing to do with the forms. Okay, and some of the technical stuff doesn't have anything to do with the description of forms. That's something that can be saved for a later part of the assignment. Okay, so describe the forms, describe their location, how big they are compared to the whole picture, how big they are compared to each other, textural similarities and differences, tonal, like light and darkness, similarities and differences, and basic shapes. Okay, some basic shapes all over here.